Hey guys, tonight we're diving into a curious and rather eerie corner of history. Did the Egyptians really use mummies for medicine? Picture yourself in the sun-baked sands of ancient Egypt, surrounded by the towering pyramids and the whispers of the Nile. Imagine a time when the dead were not simply buried but carefully preserved, wrapped in layers of linen, and infused with oils and spices. You probably won't survive this. Just kidding. It's just history. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. I'd love to see where everyone is tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The question of mummy medicine is as layered as the bandages wrapped around the ancient corpses. From the first hints of mummification around 2600 BC during the Old Kingdom, the Egyptians developed one of the most advanced medical practices of their time. They weren't just concerned with the afterlife, they had a profound understanding of the human body and its ailments, blending spiritual beliefs with practical medicine. In this context, mummies emerge preserved bodies that some thought possessed unique, healing properties. Historians still argue whether the medicinal use of mummies stemmed from superstition or genuine belief in their efficacy. The ancient Egyptians viewed death as a transition rather than an end, and preserving the body was crucial for the deceased's journey into the afterlife. But as well unravel tonight, the lines between spiritual practice and empirical medicine were blurred. The rich tapestry of ancient Egyptian beliefs surrounding health and the afterlife laid the groundwork for what some might call the world's earliest pharmacy, stocked not with pills, but with the very remains of their ancestors. So, let's unravel this intriguing history, where mummies were not merely relics of the past, but potential remedies for the living. The tale begins long before the first mummy was ever wrapped, with the ancient Egyptians' understanding of health that was as complex as the hieroglyphics on their tomb walls. They believed that illness was a result of spiritual imbalance or displeasure from the gods, and healing often required appeasing these divine entities. Medical texts from the time, such as the Ebers Papyrus, reveal a plethora of remedies, some of which included the use of mummies. The notion that parts of a mummy either ground into powder or used in potions could cure ailments sounds bizarre to our modern ears. But consider this. In the context of their time, the Egyptians relied heavily on what was available to them. If something was precious, like a well-preserved body, it surely held value beyond its physical form. Interestingly, it wasn't just mummies from kings or nobles that were utilized. People from various social standings sometimes consumed mummy-derived products, thinking they could tap into the power of the deceased. Imagine walking through the bustling bazaars of ancient Egypt, where the scent of spices mingles with something far more macabre: mummy powder for sale as a cure-all. But what's truly fascinating is that some of these practices didn't just vanish, they evolved and persisted through the ages. As the centuries turned, mummies became commodities, and their supposed medicinal properties sparked interest far beyond the borders of Egypt. Historians still debate whether mummy medicine traveled with traders or if it was a byproduct of cultural curiosity. In conclusion, tonight's exploration of mummy medicine hints at a broader narrative about ancient civilizations and their complex relationship with life, death, and healing. We find ourselves on the cusp of a journey through both the macabre and the medicinal, where the ancient Egyptians' legacy endures, inviting us to ponder the mysteries of their practices. So, let's uncover the spiritual beliefs and practices that shaped this fascinating approach to health and medicine. In ancient Egypt, where the shimmering sun painted the landscape gold, the worldview was deeply intertwined with the spiritual realm. As you stroll through the dusty streets of Thebes or the bustling markets of Memphis, you'd be struck by the omnipresence of religion and the divine, shaping every facet of life including health. The Egyptians didn't merely see medicine as a physical science, it was a divine art, where healing was often seen as a gift from the gods. Imagine a time when disease was not just a nuisance, but often perceived as a punishment from higher powers. Ancient Egyptians believed that a person's health was directly linked to their spiritual condition. Illness could mean disruption in one's relationship with the divine, a thought that surely sent shivers down the spine of anyone feeling unwell. Healing thus required not only physical remedies, but also spiritual interventions. The gods played a pivotal role in the healing process. For instance, Thoth, the god of wisdom and healing, was often invoked during medical practices. Each ailment demanded a tailored approach, a blend of herbal remedies, incantations, and rituals. Suppose you were feeling ill in ancient Egypt, you wouldn't just visit a doctor, you'd seek out a priest-physician, a figure who wielded both medical knowledge and spiritual authority. This combination of roles allowed for a holistic approach to healing, one that integrated medicine with ritual. Historians still argue whether these practices were rooted in genuine medical efficacy or merely superstition. Yet, it's essential to recognize that the ancient Egyptians were pioneers in many medical fields, documenting their findings meticulously. They performed surgeries, set broken bones, and understood the roles of different organs, knowledge that would eventually shape modern medicine. Let's not forget the peculiarities of their medical practices. For example, the use of animal parts or minerals as medicine was commonplace, and they also believed in the healing power of the earth. As you picture the bustling pharmacies in ancient Egypt, imagine jars filled with everything from crushed emeralds to honey, each labeled with hieroglyphs detailing its purpose. One remarkable aspect of their healing practices was the extensive knowledge of herbs and plants. The Egyptians cultivated medicinal plants like garlic, onions, and various spices, using them to treat everything from digestive issues to infections. However, when it came to mummies, things took a more macabre turn. They believed that the very remains of their ancestors could serve as potent medicinal ingredients. The notion of mummies being utilized in medicine might seem bizarre today, but in the context of ancient beliefs, it made poignant sense. After all, the ancient Egyptians revered their dead. To them, a mummy represented not just a body, but a vessel of power, wisdom, and potential healing. It was believed that the essence of the deceased could provide strength and vitality to the living. As we delve deeper into this topic, we find ourselves unraveling layers of history that speak to humanity's innate desire to seek healing, whether through natural remedies or spiritual interventions. The journey of mummy medicine is not just a tale of the past, it reflects our ongoing quest for understanding health and mortality, echoing through the ages. So let's continue our exploration into the fascinating mummification process itself, a practice that was more than mere preservation. It was an elaborate ritual steeped in meaning and purpose. What secrets did the embalmers hold? What techniques did they use? And how did this practice intertwine with their beliefs about life, death, and the afterlife? As we venture deeper into the rich sands of ancient Egypt, let's unroll the layers surrounding this practice of mummification. This intricate process was far more than a means of preserving the dead. It was a sacred ritual, a profound act designed to prepare the body for the afterlife. Picture the scene, artisans and priests working meticulously under the soft glow of oil lamps, their hands deftly wrapping the deceased in linen, each fold infused with spiritual significance. Mummification began with a thorough washing of the body, a ritual cleansing that symbolized purification. The next step was the extraction of internal organs, which were believed to be prone to decay. The heart, however, was kept in place, as it was considered the seat of the soul and the center of intelligence. The Egyptians believed that in the afterlife, one would be judged based on the heart's weight against the feather of Maat, the goddess of truth and justice. It was a poetic image, don't you think? Historians still argue about the specific techniques used in mummification, and while there are many theories, what's clear is that the process was a combination of art and science. The body was treated with natron, a naturally occurring salt, which effectively desiccated the flesh and organs, preventing decay. Once the body was dried, it was anointed with oils and resin substances that not only helped in preservation, but also held religious significance. The wrapping was an elaborate affair. Linen strips were applied with care, sometimes infused with myrrh and other fragrant substances, reflecting both a dedication to the deceased and a ritual to ward off evil spirits in the afterlife. Imagine the scents wafting through the air, resin, oils, and the faint aroma of spices, all coming together to create a somber yet sacred atmosphere. But mummification wasn't solely for kings and nobles, it extended to commoners as well, albeit less elaborately. The ancient Egyptians believed everyone deserved a place in the afterlife, hence the innovation of simpler mummification techniques for the lower classes. This democratic approach to mummification underscores a vital aspect of their belief system, the value of every human life, regardless of social standing. Transitioning from the physical process of mummification, we need to address the spiritual implications woven into the very fabric of their practices. For the ancient Egyptians, mummies were not just preserved bodies, they were gateways to the divine, vessels that housed the soul's essence, or ka. The ka was viewed as a double that existed alongside the physical form. Hence, a well-preserved mummy was crucial for ensuring the ka had a home to return to after death. This belief system paved the way for the intriguing intersection of mummies with medicine. The teachings and texts from ancient Egypt emphasize healing through spiritual means, and the reverence for mummified bodies extended into the realm of medicinal practices. If a mummy was perceived as divine, wouldn't a piece of it, perhaps some ground up, remain shoaled? The power to heal. As we continue our exploration tonight, these layers of meaning and practice begin to intertwine, revealing a culture that viewed life and death as parts of a continuous cycle, each influencing the other. Now, let's turn our attention to the documentation and historical accounts surrounding mummy medicine. How did ancient writers and physicians record their beliefs and practices concerning mummies? What insights can we gain from these texts about the ancient Egyptian approach to health? As the sun sets over the ancient Nile, casting golden hues on the papyrus scrolls, we step into the world of ancient texts that illuminate the mysterious practice of mummy medicine. The writings of Egyptian physicians and scholars provide us with a fascinating glimpse into their beliefs, intertwining medicine with spirituality. Imagine sifting through these scrolls, the air thick with the scent of ink and the weight of history, each passage revealing the intricate tapestry of their healing practices. One of the most significant documents from ancient Egypt is the Ebers Papyrus, dating back to around 1550 BCE. This remarkable scroll houses an array of medical knowledge, including remedies for ailments ranging from digestive disorders to skin diseases. Within its pages, mummies are mentioned as ingredients in various medicinal concoctions. This revelation opens the door to understanding how deeply embedded the idea of mummy medicine was in their culture. Historians still argue about the exact interpretations of these texts, particularly concerning the use of mummies. Some scholars assert that the references to mummies were symbolic, emphasizing spiritual healing rather than physical remedies. Others contend that these mentions were literal, suggesting that the crushed remains of mummies were indeed prescribed for ailments. The truth likely lies somewhere in between, reflecting a complex relationship with death and the afterlife. Alongside the Ebers Papyrus, we find the Edwin Smith Papyrus, which offers a more surgical perspective on medicine. This text provides insights into ancient surgical practices, demonstrating that the Egyptians had a sophisticated understanding of anatomy. Although mummies are not mentioned as prominently here, the interconnection between surgical knowledge and the use of mummies for healing is evident. The expertise of ancient physicians was not limited to herbs and potions. They practiced procedures that laid the groundwork for future medical advancements. Inscriptions on tomb walls and temple reliefs also provide valuable insights into the medical beliefs of the time. These artistic renderings often depicted physicians performing rituals and treatments, illustrating the blend of science and spirituality that characterized ancient Egyptian medicine. The imagery of mummies, healing rites, and divine intervention suggests that the act of healing was as much about ritual as it was about physical remedies. As you immerse yourself in these ancient texts, you might wonder what ailments these preserved bodies were believed to cure. Anecdotal evidence from scattered writings hints at a variety of uses. It was said that mummy powder could treat wounds, ease pain, and even counteract the effects of poison. The belief in the curative powers of mummies extended beyond mere folklore. It was a reflection of the Egyptians' reverence for their ancestors and their understanding of life and death. Moreover, the ancient practice of consuming mummy-derived products wasn't just limited to Egypt, it had repercussions that extended far beyond its borders. As trade routes flourished, so did the demand for mummies. The fascination with mummies and their purported medicinal properties began to spread, influencing neighboring cultures and later civilizations. This cultural exchange created a tapestry of medical practices that evolved over centuries, intermingling with the ideas of healing from other regions. Whale. The use of mummies in medicine may seem strange to us today. It highlights a universal human quest for health and well-being. Throughout history, cultures have sought out various remedies, often turning to the wisdom of those who came before them. The belief that the mummies of revered ancestors could offer healing power speaks to the deep-seated desire for connection, even in death. As we explore further, we will examine the scientific methods that modern researchers have employed to analyze mummies, shedding light on the ancient practices and beliefs surrounding the use of these preserved bodies. What can contemporary science reveal about the health of the ancient Egyptians and their medicinal practices? As the shadows of the past stretch across the sands of time, we now turn our attention to the fascinating intersection of ancient practices and modern science. The analysis of mummies through contemporary techniques has opened new avenues for understanding the health and medical practices of the ancient Egyptians, providing insights that would have been unimaginable just a century ago. Picture yourself in a modern laboratory, surrounded by scientists donning white coats, carefully unwrapping the mysteries held within the linen bandages of ancient mummies. In recent decades, advancements in technology have allowed researchers to conduct non-invasive examinations of mummies without the risk of damaging these precious artifacts. Techniques such as computed tomography scanning and magnetic resonance imaging may have revolutionized our understanding of mummification and the health of the individuals entombed within. These imaging technologies enable scientists to visualize the internal structures of mummies in exquisite detail, revealing secrets that have lain dormant for thousands of years. One of the most groundbreaking findings from these analyses involves the health conditions of ancient Egyptians. Through scans, researchers have discovered signs of various diseases that were prevalent in ancient times, such as arthritis, dental problems, and even signs of cardiovascular disease. Imagine the excitement in the lab as scientists uncover evidence of ailments that we often associate with modern lifestyles, prompting a rethink of our assumptions about ancient health. Historians still argue about the nature and extent of diseases in ancient Egypt, but these modern techniques provide crucial data. The presence of certain pathologies suggests that despite their advanced medical practices, the ancient Egyptians faced numerous health challenges. This realization leads to reflections on the effectiveness of their medicinal practices, including the use of mummy-derived remedies. Moreover, the analysis of mummies has revealed the use of various embalming substances that were not only for preservation but may also have had medicinal properties. For instance, some mummies have been found to contain traces of resins, oils, and herbs that were believed to have therapeutic benefits. These findings resonate with ancient texts that describe the importance of specific ingredients in mummification and their potential healing qualities. One particularly intriguing aspect of mummy analysis involves the study of the isotopes found in ancient remains. By examining the isotopic composition of bones and hair, researchers can glean insights into the diet and lifestyle of the mummified individuals. For example, the presence of certain isotopes may indicate whether the person was a laborer, consuming a diet rich in grains, or an elite, enjoying a more varied and luxurious diet. This analysis paints a vivid picture of daily life in ancient Egypt, revealing connections between nutrition, health, and social status. In addition to the physical examination of mummies, DNA analysis has also begun to shed light on the genetic history of the ancient Egyptian population. By extracting and sequencing DNA from mummified remains, scientists aim to understand the genetic predispositions to certain diseases, providing a deeper understanding of the health challenges faced by ancient Egyptians. However, this area of research is still in its infancy, and historians continue to debate the implications of these findings. The intersection of science and history through the study of mummies not only enhances our understanding of ancient Egyptian medicine but also invites us to reflect on our own health practices. As we uncover the layers of mummification and the beliefs surrounding it, we're reminded of the timeless human quest for healing. As we journey further, let's explore the specific substances believed to have healing properties derived from mummies. What were these ingredients, and how did they fit into the broader spectrum of ancient Egyptian medicine? What can we learn about the culture's attitudes toward the dead and their connection to the living through these practices? As we unravel the ancient tapestry of Egyptian medicine, we find ourselves drawn to the intriguing substances believed to possess healing properties, particularly those derived from mummies. Imagine wandering through the vibrant markets of ancient Egypt, with stalls overflowing with jars of intriguing powders, each promising a remedy for ailments both common and obscure. Here, the air would be thick with the scent of spices and herbs, and amid the clamour of vendors, whispers of the miraculous properties of mummy-derived ingredients would echo. Ancient Egyptian texts reveal a peculiar yet fascinating practice, the use of ground mummies in various medicinal concoctions. The belief was that the remnants of a revered ancestor could bestow vitality and strength upon the living. Mummy powder was said to be effective for treating a wide range of ailments, including wounds, headaches, and even more severe conditions like tumours. But what exactly was this powder, and how was it prepared? Historians still debate the details of mummy preparation and usage. Some suggest that the mummies used for medicinal purposes were not limited to royal figures, rather, they included a mix of high-status individuals and perhaps even those from lower social classes. The process of creating mummy medicine involved grinding the preserved remains into a fine powder, which was then mixed with various other ingredients like honey, wine, and spices to create potent potions. The blending of these elements would have been crucial, as the efficacy of the remedy was believed to stem from both the mummy and the accompanying substances. Among the more common uses of mummy powder was its incorporation into ointments and poultices. These preparations were applied externally to treat wounds or abscesses, leveraging the ancient Egyptians' understanding of both herbal healing and the symbolic power of the dead. Imagine a healer mixing together the fine dust of a mummy with fragrant oils and plant extracts, crafting a balm that not only aimed to heal but also invoke the strength of those who had passed on. One particularly intriguing ingredient often associated with mummy medicine is myrrh, a resin derived from the commiphora tree, revered not only for its fragrant properties, but also for its medicinal qualities. In ancient times, myrrh was believed to have anti-inflammatory and antiseptic properties, making it a valuable addition to medicinal concoctions. When combined with mummy powder, the resulting mixture carried both physical and spiritual significance, remedy grounded in the earth and the divine. In addition to myrrh, other substances were commonly integrated into these healing mixtures. For instance, the Egyptians employed honey not only for its sweetness, but also for its natural preservative and antibacterial properties. The combination of mummy powder with honey would have produced a sticky paste that could be applied to wounds, promoting healing while also invoking ancestral strength. As we ponder these peculiarities of these practices, it's essential to recognize the cultural context in which they flourished. The ancient Egyptians viewed death not as an ending but as a transition to another existence. Thus, the idea that the remains of the deceased could provide healing power was deeply rooted in their beliefs about the afterlife. Imagine the comfort a person might have felt, knowing that they could tap into the wisdom and strength of their ancestors, the very essence of whom was believed to linger in the earth. However, the practice of using mummies for medical purposes was not without controversy. As we delve deeper into the fabric of ancient beliefs, we find that the ethical implications of consuming parts of the dead are still debated today. What did these practices reveal about the Egyptians' views on life, death, and the continuity of existence? Our exploration leads us to examine the pivotal role of physicians in ancient Egypt, those figures who navigated the intricate web of medicine and spirituality. Who were these healers, and how did they incorporate the use of mummies into their practices? What impact did their beliefs have on the evolution of ancient Egyptian medicine? As we continue our exploration of ancient Egyptian medicine, we arrive at a crucial component of its practice: the physicians themselves. Picture the scene: an ancient Egyptian medical clinic bustling with life, where skilled practitioners adorned in linen garments attend to a diverse clientele seeking cures for various ailments. These healers were more than mere doctors. They were often viewed as intermediaries between the spiritual and physical realms. In ancient Egypt, the title of physician was reserved for those who had undergone extensive training and were well versed in the healing arts. Many physicians were affiliated with temples, where they not only treated the sick but also engaged in rituals to invoke divine assistance. The practice of medicine was deeply intertwined with religion, therefore physicians often doubled as priests, a relationship that enriched their understanding of both the body and the soul. Among the most notable physicians of ancient Egypt was Imhotep, who lived during the 3rd dynasty around 2650 BCE. Revered as a god of medicine and healing, Imhotep was not only an architect and advisor to Pharaoh Djoser but also a pioneer in the field of medicine. His teachings were documented in various texts, paving the way for future medical practices in Egypt and beyond. Historians still argue about the extent of his influence, but his legacy undoubtedly looms large over the world of ancient healing. Within this context, the use of mummies in medicine would have been a practice that physicians like Imhotep employed with careful consideration. The belief in the powerful essence of the deceased undoubtedly informed their practices when incorporating mummy-derived substances into treatment. These physicians held a dual responsibility. They had to provide effective remedies, while also respecting the spiritual significance of their patients' beliefs about life and death. However, the integration of mummies into medical practices extended beyond the elite. As we delve deeper into the socio-economic landscape of ancient Egypt, we discover that physicians often treated a wide range of patients, from royalty to commoners. The use of mummy powder was not confined to the rich, rather, it permeated various social strata. For many individuals, the idea of consuming a revered ancestor's remains represented a connection to the past, a bridge between the living and the dead, reinforcing the belief that healing transcended social boundaries. One fascinating aspect of the medicinal use of mummies was the approach taken by these ancient physicians. They employed a holistic view of health, combining physical treatments with spiritual practices. When a patient arrived with an ailment, the physician would diagnose not just the physical symptoms but also the spiritual aspects that might be contributing to the illness. Possibly, they would perform rituals or offer prayers while simultaneously administering herbal remedies or mummy-derived mixtures. Imagine consulting one of these physicians in their humble clinic, the air heavy with the scent of oils and herbs. You would lay your concerns before them, and they would respond not only with practical advice, but also with spiritual guidance, invoking the divine to aid in your recovery. This multifaceted approach to healing exemplifies the complexity and depth of ancient Egyptian medicine. As we further examine the impact of these practices, we must also address the evolving perceptions of mummy medicine among the general populace. How did the common people view the use of mummies in healing? Did they embrace the practices of physicians, or were there doubts about the ethics of utilizing the deceased? Next, we'll delve into the fascinating topic of mummy medicine beyond the elite classes, and explore how such practices permeated the lives of everyday Egyptians. What was the societal attitude toward these remedies, and how did they reflect broader beliefs about health, death, and the afterlife? As we venture further into the intricate web of ancient Egyptian society, we turn our gaze to the everyday individuals who sought healing through the practices of their physicians. Imagine wandering through the bustling streets of an ancient Egyptian town, where the air is filled with the sounds of vendors hawking their wares and the scent of freshly baked bread mingles with spices. Here, among the common folk, the use of mummies for medicinal purposes was a topic of both intrigue and practicality. While it's easy to associate mummies and their medicinal properties with the elite and the wealthy, the reality is that these practices extended beyond the walls of palaces and temples. Historical records suggest that ordinary Egyptians, too, engaged with the idea of mummy medicine, believing that the remains of the dead held the potential to cure a variety of ailments. This widespread belief reflects a culture deeply rooted in the reverence for ancestors and the continuity of life beyond death. The societal attitude toward mummy medicine was complex. For many, the notion that consuming a part of a revered ancestor could bestow healing power was not just accepted, it was embraced. It was an integral part of their connection to their heritage and the spiritual world. The belief in the potency of mummy-derived substances became a way for people to enhance their health while simultaneously honoring their lineage. In a society where family ties and respect for the dead were paramount, it's no wonder this practice found its place in everyday life. However, it's essential to consider how these practices might have differed across social classes. While the wealthier classes may have had access to more elaborate remedies and skilled physicians, the common people often had to rely on simpler treatments. They might seek out local healers or folk practitioners who incorporated mummy medicine into their offerings, albeit in less formalized ways. These healers, often viewed as community figures, would mix traditional remedies with the mystique surrounding mummies, creating a blend of practical and spiritual healing that resonated with the populace. As you visualize this community, picture a small gathering where a local healer prepares a mixture of mummy powder, herbs, and oils in a clay bowl, sharing stories of the ancestors who provide strength and healing. The healer's words weave a narrative that connects the living to those who have passed, reinforcing the idea that health and vitality are rooted in the legacy of one's forebears. Historians continue to debate the ethical implications of these practices. Did the common people view the use of mummies as a sacred act, or were there moments of doubt and concern? Some might have questioned the morality of consuming the dead, while others celebrated the opportunity to connect with their ancestors through healing. This dichotomy reflects the multifaceted nature of ancient Egyptian beliefs, where life and death were interwoven in ways that challenged our modern sensibilities. Furthermore, the role of tomb robbing and the trade of mummies began to complicate matters. As external forces and economic pressures increased, the demand for mummy-derived substances grew, leading to a thriving black market. Imagine the whispers that would circulate in these towns about the dubious origins of the powders being sold in secret. Were they truly from esteemed ancestors, or were these just remnants hastily gathered from tombs? This uncertainty may have added a layer of apprehension to an otherwise revered practice. As we reflect on the societal implications of mummy medicine, it becomes evident that these practices were not just about healing. They were interwoven with identity, spirituality, and the very essence of being Egyptian. The healing power associated with mummies served as a bridge, connecting people to their past while navigating the complexities of their present. Next, we'll explore the modern-day misconceptions surrounding mummy medicine and how they often veer into the realm of myth. How have these ideas persisted, and what role do they play in our current understanding of ancient practices? What can we learn from the past that informs our views on health and wellness today? As we navigate through the sands of time, we now arrive at a crossroads where ancient practices intersect with modern misconceptions. The subject of mummy medicine has long sparked the imagination, leading to tales that often blur the lines between historical fact and myth. In our contemporary world, the idea of consuming mummy-derived products evokes a mixture of intrigue and disbelief, but how accurate are these modern interpretations of ancient practices? In popular culture, the narrative surrounding mummy medicine has often taken on a life of its own, drifting away from the historical context in which these practices originated. For instance, the notion that ancient Egyptians regularly munched on mummy flesh for health purposes is more fiction than fact. While references to the use of mummy powder in medicinal recipes exist, it's crucial to recognize that the practice was not as widespread as sensationalized accounts suggest. Many modern portrayals lean heavily toward the theatrical, often depicting mummy medicine in horror films or novels where these ancient remedies morph into something macabre and grotesque. Historians still argue about the authenticity of various accounts that describe the use of mummies. Some scholars assert that the practice primarily served as a spiritual connection rather than a practical medicinal pursuit. This ambiguity creates fertile ground for misconceptions to flourish. When we think about mummy medicine today, we often imagine a world where mummies were a common sight in pharmacies or where their remains were casually consumed at mealtime. In reality, the reverence for the dead in ancient Egyptian culture likely prevented such casual usage. Moreover, the trade in mummies during the Middle Ages and the Renaissance contributed significantly to the myths surrounding these ancient practices. As mummies became valuable commodities, they found their way into various concoctions for supposed medicinal purposes, often sold in apothecaries as mummy or mummy powder. However, what was often sold was far from authentic. Many times, merchants marketed their wares under misleading names, exploiting the mystique of ancient Egypt while capitalizing on the public's fascination with the exotic and the unknown. One particularly bizarre idea that emerged during this time was the belief that ground mummy could cure everything from headaches to the plague. This misconception, fueled by rumors and a lack of scientific understanding, led to the widespread use of powdered mummies in Europe. While the practice was based on ancient Egyptian beliefs, it reflected a significant misunderstanding of the spiritual significance of mummies in their original context. In today's society, the remnants of these ancient practices can still be observed. While we have largely moved beyond the idea of using mummies in medicine, the fascination with ancient healing methods continues. People are drawn to natural remedies, herbal medicine, and alternative therapies, often looking back at the wisdom of ancient cultures for guidance. However, it's essential to approach these practices with a critical eye, recognizing the distinction between genuine historical practices and sensationalized myths. As we explore the impact of these modern interpretations, it's vital to understand that the legacy of mummy medicine is both a reflection of the ancient Egyptians' profound beliefs about life and death, and a testament to our contemporary culture's desire to connect with the past. The allure of mummies persists, not just as relics of a bygone era, but as symbols of the human experience's request for healing, understanding, and continuity in the face of mortality. Next, we'll analyze the cultural exchanges that occurred as the knowledge of mummy medicine spread beyond the borders of Egypt. How did these practices influence neighboring societies, and what can we learn about the diffusion of medical knowledge in the ancient world? As we transition from the misconceptions of mummy medicine, let's embark on a journey to explore the profound influence ancient Egyptian practices had on neighboring cultures and societies. Picture yourself standing on the edge of the Nile, observing merchants and travelers mingling, sharing stories and goods from far and wide. The ancient Egyptians were not isolated. They were part of a vast network of trade and cultural exchange that allowed their medical knowledge, including the use of mummies, to spread far beyond their own borders. The reach of Egyptian civilization extended to various cultures, including the Greeks, Romans, and even the peoples of the Near East. As these societies interacted with Egypt, they encountered not only its architectural wonders and artistic achievements, but also its advanced medical practices. Greek scholars, such as Hippocrates and Galen, were influenced by Egyptian medical texts and practices, which they integrated into their own healing traditions. Imagine the back-and-forth exchanges, where papyrus scrolls laden with knowledge were traded alongside goods like papyrus, gold, and textiles. One particularly significant figure in this cultural exchange was the Greek physician Herodotus, often referred to as the father of history. In his writings, he recounted the wonders of Egyptian medicine, including the use of mummies for healing purposes. His observations not only captured the imaginations of his contemporaries, but also laid the groundwork for later Western views of Egyptian medicine. Historians still debate the accuracy of his accounts, but what is undeniable is that they helped disseminate Egyptian medical knowledge throughout the Mediterranean world. The Romans, who revered Egyptian culture, further propagated these ideas. Following their conquest of Egypt in 30 BCE, the Romans adopted various aspects of Egyptian life, including their medical practices. The use of mummy-derived substances was not uncommon in Roman society, where they were often marketed through apothecaries as potent remedies. Just as in ancient Egypt, the Romans believed that the remains of the dead could possess healing properties. The blending of Egyptian and Roman medical practices created a rich tapestry of healing knowledge that would influence future generations. Interestingly, the fascination with mummies extended beyond the realms of medicine into other aspects of life. During the Renaissance, Europeans became enamored with ancient Egypt, leading to a revival of interest in its art, architecture, and, notably, its medical practices. The idea of mummy medicine captured the imaginations of artists and writers, who wove tales of ancient cures into their works, further entrenching the allure of Egyptian healing in the cultural consciousness. However, this cultural exchange was not without its complexities. As Egyptian ideas mingled with those of other civilizations, the understanding of health and healing evolved. Each culture brought its own beliefs, practices, and interpretations to the table. For instance, while the Egyptians viewed illness as a spiritual imbalance, the Greeks leaned toward a more rationalist approach, emphasizing bodily humors and the need for balance. This blending of ideologies often led to innovative medical practices, but could also cause confusion and misinterpretation. As we examine the impact of ancient Egyptian mummy medicine on other cultures, it's crucial to recognize that these practices were not static, they evolved and adapted to fit the needs and beliefs of different societies. The legacy of mummy medicine transcended geographical boundaries, shaping approaches to health and wellness across the ancient world. Now, as we continue our exploration, we must consider the darker side of this cultural exchange, the impact of tomb raiding and the commodification of mummies. How did the theft and trade of mummies affect perceptions of health and healing in both ancient Egypt and the societies that sought to exploit them? As we delve deeper into the historical currents surrounding mummy medicine, we cannot overlook the darker undertones of tomb raiding and the commodification of mummies. Picture the ancient Egyptian landscape dotted with grand tombs, secrets waiting to be unveiled beneath the sands. However, these sacred spaces became targets for looters and treasure hunters seeking wealth rather than reverence for the deceased. The allure of riches often overshadowed the sanctity of the burial sites, leading to a complex and troubling chapter in the history of mummy medicine. Tomb raiding, which began in ancient times, exploded during the Greco-Roman period, with treasures being extracted from the tombs of pharaohs and nobles. The stolen artifacts and mummies themselves were often sold on the black market, and the remains of the deceased were frequently reduced to mere commodities. Imagine the scenes of chaos as tomb robbers scored these sacred sites, their hands desecrating the resting places of ancient rulers. In the frenzy for gold and jewels, the significance of the mummies was disregarded, reducing them to little more than ingredients for folk remedies or curiosities for the wealthy. The demand for mummy-derived products surged as the belief in their medicinal properties spread throughout various cultures. During the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, mummies were sometimes ground into powders and sold as mummy in apothecaries across Europe. These preparations were marketed as potent remedies for a range of ailments, from inflammation to consumption. But what was often sold in the name of healing was not necessarily derived from the revered bodies of kings and queens. Instead, it often consisted of whatever remains could be procured and processed. This commodification of mummies led to a troubling paradox. On one hand, the reverence for the dead persisted in many cultures, while on the other, the very essence of the deceased was being stripped of its sacredness and exploited for profit. Historians still argue about the ethical implications of this practice. Was it a reflection of cultural exchange, or was it a blatant disregard for the beliefs and traditions of ancient peoples? This question continues to resonate in discussions about the treatment of cultural artifacts in contemporary society. The impact of tomb raiding extended beyond the immediate loss of treasures. It had profound implications for the understanding of ancient Egyptian medicine and healing practices. With many mummies being desecrated and removed from their context, the rich tapestry of knowledge that could have been derived from them was lost. Researchers today often lament the information that will never be known, as archaeological sites were pillaged and historical narratives disrupted. Additionally, the legacy of mummy medicine became entangled with the myths and misconceptions that arose surrounding the sourcing of mummy-derived products. The very notion of using mummies for healing became synonymous with exploitation. As more tales of mummy medicine spread, the debate heightened about the authenticity and efficacy of such remedies. Were they truly beneficial? Or were they simply an extension of superstitious beliefs rooted in a misunderstanding of the past? This exploitation of the deceased also sparked fears and rumors that resonated through society. The idea that consuming mummies could lead to both physical and spiritual repercussions lingered in the collective psyche. Superstitions flourished, and people began to question the morality of these practices. As awareness of the unethical nature of mummy commodification grew, the conversation around ancient medicine shifted, prompting reflections on respect for cultural heritage and the treatment of the dead. As we progress in our exploration, we now come to the intriguing relationship between mummy medicine and its portrayal in art and literature. How did these narratives shape perceptions of ancient practices, and what role did they play in propelling the myths surrounding mummies into contemporary culture? As we shift our focus from the grim realities of tomb raiding to the realm of cultural expression, the interconnectedness of mummy medicine and art becomes apparent. Picture the vibrant scenes depicted in ancient Egyptian art, where healers and rituals come to life in vivid colors, immortalizing the practices and beliefs of a civilization that revered life, death, and the continuum between them. The fascination with mummies transcended the physical remains, seeping into the fabric of storytelling and artistic representation, shaping perceptions of ancient healing practices for generations to come. From the hieroglyphs adorning tomb walls to the intricate frescoes found within burial chambers, ancient Egyptian artists captured the essence of their medical practices, intertwining spirituality with the physical world. These images often depicted physicians in action mixing herbal remedies, casting spells, or attending to the sick, all while invoking the blessings of gods like Thoth, the deity associated with wisdom and healing. These representations served more than just decorative purposes. They were a means of passing down knowledge and ensuring that healing practices were preserved for the afterlife. As centuries passed, the allure of mummies continued to inspire artists, writers, and thinkers across diverse cultures. During the Renaissance, a renewed interest in ancient Egypt took hold, fueled by archaeological discoveries and translations of ancient texts. Artists began to incorporate themes of mummification and mummy medicine into their works, often romanticizing and mythologizing the practices. Imagine canvases adorned with fantastical depictions of ancient healers wielding mysterious potions, their patients surrounded by swirling mists of incense, as if the essence of the past was coming to life before their eyes. Literature, too, played a pivotal role in shaping perceptions of mummy medicine. The fascination with ancient Egypt found its way into the novels and stories of the time, often blending fact with fiction. Writers like Edgar Allan Poe, Bram Stoker, and Arthur Conan Doyle tapped into the allure of mummies, weaving tales that captured the imagination of readers. In these narratives, mummies often became symbols of mystery and intrigue, embodying the unknown and the supernatural. However, these portrayals frequently strayed far from the realities of ancient practices. The popular narrative of the mummy as a vengeful spirit, or an undead being seeking revenge, is a significant departure from the Egyptians' view of mummies as revered ancestors. Instead of being vessels of wisdom and healing, they became figures of horror and suspense, reinforcing the myths that would linger into modern times. Interestingly, the allure of mummy medicine persisted into the Victorian era, where the practice of using mummy powder became a trend. People believed that consuming ground mummy could cure various ailments, from common colds to serious diseases. This bizarre trend was propelled by an increasing fascination with the exotic and the unknown, heavily influenced by the sensationalized depictions presented in literature and art. As the fascination with mummies continued to evolve, modern interpretations often retain echoes of these historical narratives. Films, television shows, and novels frequently revisit the themes of mummy medicine, albeit with a contemporary twist. The portrayal of mummies in popular culture often intertwines the allure of ancient knowledge with fantastical elements, perpetuating myths that meld the historical with the supernatural. Yet, as we navigate this landscape of artistic expression and cultural interpretation, it's essential to recognize the layers of meaning that surround mummy medicine. The blending of fact and fiction has shaped our understanding of ancient practices, highlighting the distance between the reverence the Egyptians held for their dead and the sensationalized narratives that have emerged over centuries. Now, as we approach the conclusion of our exploration, we must reflect on the decline of mummy medicine and the factors contributing to its eventual disappearance from practice. What led to the waning of these ancient beliefs? And how did the evolution of medical understanding shape the narrative of mummies in the eyes of society? As the sands of time shift beneath our feet, we now arrive at a pivotal juncture in the history of mummy medicine, its decline. Picture a landscape where the once sacred practices surrounding mummies slowly fade into obscurity, replaced by evolving medical understandings and cultural shifts. This transition did not happen overnight. It was a gradual process influenced by various factors that reshaped society's views on health, healing, and the complexities of the human experience. The waning of mummy medicine can be traced back to several key developments in both medical science and societal beliefs. As the centuries progressed, particularly during the rise of the Enlightenment in the 17th and 18th centuries, a shift towards rationalism began to emerge. This era emphasized empirical evidence and scientific reasoning, moving away from superstitious beliefs and spiritual practices that had characterized ancient healing methods. Imagine a world where the mystique surrounding the ancient past was challenged by a new wave of inquiry, driven by curiosity and the pursuit of knowledge. With the advent of modern medicine, ideas about health and disease underwent a radical transformation. Physicians began to rely more on anatomy, germ theory, and clinical practice rather than the mystical attributes associated with mummies. The contributions of figures such as Hippocrates and Galen, alongside advances in surgical techniques, laid the groundwork for a medical paradigm that was grounded in observation and evidence. The transition from a holistic, spiritual approach to a more clinical understanding of medicine meant that the ancient practices of using mummies for healing could no longer hold the same weight in the face of scientific progress. As exploration and colonialism expanded throughout the 19th century, Western attitudes toward mummies shifted dramatically. While earlier generations may have embraced the exotic allure of mummy medicine, the narrative became increasingly tinged with condescension and skepticism. Mummies, once viewed as sources of wisdom and healing, became relics of a primitive past, representing a bygone era that Western societies were eager to move beyond. The commodification of mummies for entertainment such as public displays and exhibitions further distanced them from their original cultural and spiritual significance. In addition to these broader societal changes, advancements in medical treatments also contributed to the decline of mummy medicine. The development of pharmaceuticals and the understanding of diseases led to more effective and scientifically validated treatments. The introduction of antibiotics, anesthetics, and surgical innovations rendered many ancient remedies obsolete. With these advancements, the notion of relying on the remains of the dead for healing became increasingly viewed as archaic and irrational. Interestingly, the decline of mummy medicine was not simply a rejection of the past. It also reflected a broader transformation in the relationship between humans and their understanding of health. As societies evolved, so did the ways in which they sought to understand illness and wellness. The reverence for the dead, while still present in various cultures, began to shift toward a focus on the living and their capabilities to address health concerns. Yet, as our exploration draws to a close, it is essential to consider the legacy of mummy medicine. Although the practice itself may have faded, the fascination with mummies and their historical significance endures. In contemporary discussions about health and wellness, echoes of ancient beliefs persist, reminding us of the intricate tapestry of human experience that has shaped our understanding of life and death. As we reflect on the journey we've taken through the annals of history, we find ourselves faced with the timeless questions surrounding mortality, healing, and the connections between past and present. The story of mummy medicine serves as a testament to humanity's quest for understanding, illustrating how cultures navigate their relationship with the dead while seeking solace and healing in their lives. Finally, let us consider the modern interpretations and misinterpretations of these ancient practices. How do contemporary views reshape our understanding of health and wellness? And what lessons can we glean from the mummified past that speak to our present? As we approach the final chapters of our exploration into mummy medicine, we now turn our gaze to the modern interpretations and misinterpretations of these ancient practices. The fascination with mummies and their supposed medicinal properties has not waned, rather it has evolved into a complex narrative that reflects contemporary attitudes toward health, wellness, and the legacy of ancient civilizations. Imagine the curiosity of modern audiences, captivated by the allure of mummies, as they unlock the secrets of ancient Egypt in books, films, and popular culture. In today's world, the concept of using mummies for medicinal purposes has largely been relegated to the realm of myth and entertainment. While the historical realities of mummy medicine were rooted in a blend of spirituality and practical healing, modern interpretations often stray far from the nuances of ancient beliefs. Films like The Mummy and The Mummy Returns dramatize the figure of the mummy as a supernatural entity, invoking fear and excitement while completely obscuring the ancient Egyptians' reverence for their dead. In these narratives, the mummies serve as villains or relics of horror, rather than the revered ancestors they were to the Egyptians. On social media and in popular health discussions, references to mummy medicine sometimes emerge, often devoid of historical context. This can lead to a misunderstanding of ancient practices, as modern audiences may conflate the mystical aspects of mummy medicine with genuine therapeutic approaches. Moreover, the recent trend toward natural and holistic remedies has sparked a renewed interest in ancient healing methods, but this revival often lacks a critical examination of their historical roots. The romanticization of ancient practices can overshadow the ethical considerations surrounding them, leading to a potential repetition of past mistakes where cultural artifacts are commodified for profit without respect for their origins. Additionally, the fascination with ancient Egyptian mummies has been echoed in the wellness industry, where products claiming to be rooted in ancient wisdom can be found on shelves. These items, often marketed as natural remedies, may draw on the allure of ancient practices but frequently lack the scientific backing needed to substantiate their claims. This raises an important question: how much of our modern understanding of health is influenced by historical practices, and how much is shaped by misconceptions and fictional representations? Moreover, the discussions surrounding mummy medicine also invite reflections on contemporary health practices and the methods we use to approach healing. Today, there is a growing movement toward integrative medicine, which seeks to blend traditional healing practices with modern medical science. This approach resonates with the ancient Egyptian ethos of holistic healing, where the physical, spiritual, and emotional aspects of health were all considered. As we navigate these modern discussions, it's worth contemplating how the stories we tell about ancient practices can inform our understanding of health today. The legacy of mummy medicine is a testament to humanity's enduring quest for understanding and connection. Though the practice itself has largely declined, the fascination with mummies continues to inspire curiosity, inviting us to look back at the past while shaping our present and future. The lessons gleaned from ancient Egyptian beliefs about life, death, and healing remind us of the importance of honoring our ancestors, while seeking to understand the complexities of our own existence. As we near the conclusion of our journey, let's reflect on the lasting impact of mummy medicine, recognizing its place within the larger narrative of human history. What can we learn from this exploration that deepens our appreciation for the interplay between life and death, healing and spirituality? As we arrive at the final destination of our journey through the fascinating world of mummy medicine, let's take a moment to reflect on the lasting impact and intrigue that these ancient practices continue to hold. The story of mummy medicine is not merely a relic of the past, but a vibrant thread woven into the broader tapestry of human history. Picture the ancient Egyptians, with their intricate beliefs and profound reverence for life and death as they navigate the complexities of health and healing. Their legacy invites us to explore and understand our own relationship with mortality and the quest for wellness. The enduring fascination with mummies and their supposed medicinal qualities reveals a deep-seated human desire to connect with the past. In a world often preoccupied with scientific advancements, the allure of ancient wisdom beckons. The practices surrounding mummy medicine serve as a reminder that healing has always been a multifaceted journey, intertwining the physical, spiritual, and emotional aspects of existence. Imagine sitting in a modern wellness center, where practitioners blend herbal remedies with mindfulness techniques. This echoes the holistic approach of ancient Egyptians, where healing was about much more than just the ailment at hand. While the use of mummies in medicine may seem strange or even grotesque to us today, it reflects a profound cultural understanding of the interconnectedness of life and death. The ancient Egyptians viewed the act of mummification not just as a means of preservation, but as a vital step in ensuring the deceased could aid the living. This belief highlights the importance of honoring our ancestors, recognizing that their legacies shape our identities and influence our well-being. As we consider the cultural exchanges that occurred as ancient Egyptian practices spread throughout the Mediterranean and beyond, we see a rich history of human interaction marked by curiosity and adaptation. The beliefs around mummy medicine influenced various cultures from the Greeks and Romans to later European societies, each adding their interpretations and nuances. This interplay of ideas prompts us to reflect on how our own modern practices, whether rooted in tradition or innovation, continue to evolve in response to changing societal values. The ethical considerations surrounding mummy medicine also prompt necessary discussions in today's context. As we engage with the past, it is crucial to approach ancient practices with respect and an understanding of their cultural significance. The commodification of mummies, while historically significant, serves as a cautionary tale about the potential for exploitation when ancient wisdom is stripped of its context. In reclaiming these narratives, we can foster a greater appreciation for the complexities of cultural heritage and the importance of ethical engagement with the past. As we bring our exploration to a close, let's also reflect on the lessons modern society can glean from the ancient Egyptians' approach to health and healing. Their belief in the power of connection between the living and the dead, between the body and the spirit, reminds us of the importance of holistic well-being. In our fast-paced, often fragmented lives, the notion that healing extends beyond the physical to encompass emotional and spiritual aspects invites us to seek balance and harmony in our own health journeys. In conclusion, the legacy of mummy medicine continues to resonate, inviting us to explore the profound questions of life, death, and healing. The ancient Egyptians' intricate beliefs serve as a reminder that our understanding of health is a tapestry woven from science, spirituality, and culture. As we navigate our own paths toward wellness, may we carry forward the wisdom of those who came before us, honoring their legacies while forging our own connections to the past. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the history of mummy medicine. As we drift off into the night, let's carry with us a sense of curiosity and reverence for the myriad ways in which ancient practices continue to shape our understanding of health and the human experience.